I want to make this very clear. This video is not to disparage or throw shade at Blackie and his content. I'm a fan of his content. I really love his content. I watch almost everything he puts out. He's one of the best to talk about rappers and artists and hip hop in general. But this video he just made called The Dysfunction of Sexyy Red is different from all his previous content. He was just on a recent hiatus. I guess he was on vacation or something. And he came back with a pretty in-depth, well-made video about Sexyy Red and how her persona is basically detrimental to the black community, women, and hip-hop in general. This also is not in defense of Sexyy Red. I don't really care for her as an artist. I don't care if she makes it, if she fails. I'm not a fan, and I don't despise her either. This is just to point out some flaws in logic and critical thinking when we make some of these videos, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not perfect. I don't think anything I've put out has been perfect. I'm still new at this, and I'm still trying my best to be the best content creator I can. But being a fan of Blackie and seeing how great his content is, I feel like this was a good time for me to try something new, because this is something I've been wanting to do. And I think that it's a good video to critique, to talk about conspiracy theories and flaws in logic and how people make really grand claims without any evidence to back it up. If you haven't noticed, my channel has kind of been leaning towards debunking BS and conspiracy theories and whatnot, and I kind of have a big interest in that topic. So I think this is a good jumping off point to talk about that. Again, this is nothing, no shade to Blackie. It's just a good example of kind of how people fall deep into these rabbit holes without critically thinking about why they think this way.
Before we continue talking, let's go over the archetype of a Sexyy Red, because this is one of the most important aspects of why she was chosen. I did say chosen, and that's exactly what it is. For anyone who still hasn't realized this, Sexyy Red was handpicked by the industry to play the position she's currently in. You need to understand that nothing, especially as it relates to the music industry, a billion-dollar industry, happens by mistake. Here we have one of the most viral artists on the internet climbing by the second. She's not the best rapper, doesn't make the best music, although she has a couple bangers, I must say. She's kind of trashy by her own standards, doesn't portray herself as the most morally inclined human being. Despite all this, she continues to climb.
Now, up until this point in the video, Blackie has made some great points about her antics and her behavior as a new upcoming artist. It's kind of disgusting, like the whole sex tape debacle, the incident where her pushing off the ballet teacher of not caring that her kids want to hear her music and she doesn't care, getting kicked out of a high school for smelling like weed. All of these are valid points that kind of show what type of person she is and the persona she's displaying. This section is where I really have an issue with the setup to the premise that he wants to make for this video, because now he is going to relate the fact that she's had all these horrible antics, and this is going to show why she's chosen by the industry, when I don't believe that the industry chooses anybody. I believe the industry puts out what's working. A lot of artists make it to the industry by signing with a label. Some people do it independently, and not all, but the lucky ones that slip through the cracks, if they're making money, they're gonna get put in front of everybody. It's just that simple. It's not a huge conspiracy. She's not any archetype for any type of black person. If you ask me, in my personal opinion, I think saying this is more detrimental to black women, because we all know that black women comes in all different forms, shapes, and sizes. And I don't think that she's even the first of her kind. Everything he said literally can be applied to a bunch of one-hit wonders or people that had their 15 minutes of fame. Sexyy Red is just an offspring of some predecessors that she's had already.
Sexyy Red is a walking caricature of a very big group of people, black women. The word caricature derives from the Italian word caricare, which means to load or exaggerate. The English definition is as follows: the art of making, drawing, or written spoken description of someone that usually makes them look silly by making part of their appearance or character more noticeable than it really is. Annibale Carracci, who was an influential Italian painter of the late 16th and 17th century, played a crucial part in the development of Western art. Alongside his brother Agostino, Annibale is credited with initializing the inclusion of characters in modern-day art form. Characters have since then become a very powerful tool used mostly as propaganda by the media to either present a false image of a big group of people or to condemn said people by displaying them as foolish. In 1938, the Nazis organized a public exhibition in Dusseldorf, Germany. The exhibition in question included a poster displaying a cartoon caricature of an African-American male playing on a saxophone with the Star of David on his tuxedo. This was their attempt at vilifying jazz music, which they deemed as NIGGR music. We may live in 2024 where the world is more inclusive than it used to be, but the subtle use of caricatures, especially in the music industry, signals that we still have a lot of work to do. In a world dominated dominated by media propaganda that shapes our perspective of things, but especially people. Sexyy Red is being used as a tool by the music industry to further propagate a negative view of black people as a whole, but especially black women.
That was a lot. I know it was a lot of information, a lot of historical facts, which he all presented beautifully and eloquently to tie in what he is further trying to say is that Sexyy Red is a caricature of black women. We can all say that Sexyy Red is being her natural, real self, or maybe she is playing up who she is as a caricature of the type of hood, ratchet, ghetto, whatever, black woman, and that she is intentionally being put out to make us all think negatively of black women, and this is what they are. My issue with this is all hinging off the premise that this is extremely intentional and done with malice. I can't buy into the narrative that this is done with malice. And this is why he has to present all of these historical facts, because without it, you're kind of just left to wonder if it's all real or not. But he gives you the historical analysis to further make you think that it's intentional, because that's the only way you can feel that it's intentional. I just want to put it like this. For us to buy into the fact that this is all done intentionally, that means that some people sat in a room together and said, you guys, we have to find the most ratchet, hood rat black woman that makes the worst music possible so we can put her in front of people and we can sink money into this possible flop of an artist, and hopefully they'll eat it up so we can further make people think black people are ratchet. I don't know how much of a plan that is going into it and how successful you think it'll be. I mean, yes, it's possible. I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but I think it's far stretched out, versus the woman got exposed to an audience that took a liking to her and they saw they could make money and they invested in her to make them some more money. You also have to take into consideration that when these ideas are being pushed out and told to you, what would be the end goal and if it actually makes any sense at the end of the day? Because to propagate that black people are all like this doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't help anything. It just further propagates that you kind of divide people, in all honesty, because I think that it would be foolish to act like that Sexyy Red does not cater to a certain demographic of people. And I think that if you really don't like it, that's one thing. If you think that it's disgusting and you rather not see it, I think that's a different idea than to propose that everybody else is out there thinking that these type of people are the worst type of people and that they should just be frowned upon. Because whether or not you like the music, there are people that do, and you can't kind of take that away from them because you don't like it. And I feel like that's really what this boils down to, because to just make everybody think that this is how black people are, when obviously that isn't true. She's not even that popular, even amongst her demographic of artists. I think I can say that comfortably. I don't see why that would even be the logical end that you would come to just because Sexyy Red has became popular recently.
Black people are not a monolith though, so what am I actually even saying right now? The question here isn't whether or not we are the same, because black people are not all the same. If they haven't told you, we're not all the same. We're different as human beings, from different backgrounds to different personalities to different hobbies to different interests and all the other intricacies that comes with this thing called the complexity of being a human being. That is not the concern here. The concern, however, is that mainstream media has portrayed us as a monolith.
As we see, he basically just said the same thing I was thinking while I watched this video. We're not all the same, and nobody even really thinks that. I think that black people do have a heavy representation within hip hop and rap, but I think it is unfair that to say that the mainstream media is only portraying us in one way, because we know that's far from the truth. We got the biggest artist right now this year, Kendrick Lamar, who is headlining the Super Bowl next year, who is not like the mainstream other artists that we see all the time. Drake, one of the biggest rappers in the world, he's not considered what we would see as a monolith or mainstream hip hop. You have people like Chance the Rapper, Lupe Fiasco. There's so many different types of artists who are all big and respected for their own individuality, and black people recognize that, and people that aren't black also recognize it. So I don't understand why he kind of just defeated his whole point of trying to say that they're trying to make it look like that's all black people when nobody actually believes that, which is why, again, Sexyy Red is not even the most popular within her own contemporaries.
I never blame individual people for falling into this trap. However, I do blame the larger system, which is compiled by individuals for broadcasting one aspect of an entire group of people. Sexyy Red is not only directly but openly contributing to that negative view of her own kind in a way that I honestly think is disgusting.
And there you have it, a personal, upfront, out his mouth admission that he personally just finds it disgusting, which is perfectly fine, but don't try to make it seem like there is some overlord of the music industry that wants to handpick the worst of what you deem the worst of our kind and people like them and make it seem like this is all a conspiracy to make all black people look this way, because I don't even know where the idea that anybody is thinking that this is all black people, when I just showed that she's not even the most listened to amongst her ilk. It's not as if she's the richest. It's not as if she's on our TV screens everywhere. It's not as if she gets more radio play than some of our other counterparts, male or female. It's just weird that you pick the worst of the worst and say, why is she getting so much recognition, when in all actuality, she's probably getting some of the least of some of our great artists. And I guess the issue comes into your disapproval of her character and your disapproval of her music, when again, we've seen people have music that was terrible and people like it for one reason or another, and most of the time they don't last long. Sexyy Red has not been in the limelight for that long, so I personally don't think she'll be here for the long run, but she's here right now and it is what it is.
However, Red is an openly trash and ratchet chick from the hood who became rich and famous by validating a false and negative stereotype.
I don't know if it's fair to say that she's validating a negative stereotype. In all honesty, stereotypes are only formed because there is some level of truth to them. She doesn't exist on an island. She isn't the only one of her kind. She does cater to a certain demographic. That's why she made it at all. If she was appealing to absolutely no one, she would have been here today and gone tomorrow. Nobody is spending time, energy, or money on somebody that isn't bringing them more money. That's just the way the industry works. And I think the sooner we accept that and make it a reality, the less people like her would even get any recognition. Because if you just ignored her, she will go away. But until then, we're going to have more Sexyy Reds come out as long as people are spending money on her. Period.
And by the way, she's obviously no different from a lot of the other women in the game. The only difference is that Sexyy Red is the one who's in the focal point at this very moment.
I want to know, according to who? Where is Sexyy Red in the focal point? We've been hearing more about Ice Spice and Cardi B and Meg and Nicki than Sexyy Red. Sexyy Red is not in the focal point as far as music goes as a whole. Does she have a lot of antics? Yes. I don't even think she's in the focal point at this moment. She was when she dropped a song with Drake, but that's because it was a song with Drake. She was when her sex tape came out because that was drama. Other than that, where are you hearing about Sexyy Red and what she's doing?
After all, for Sexyy Red to thrive, there has to be a demand from the market. On top of that, there has to be someone who's willing to bet on her. White men.
And there we have it. The race baiting has finally struck down. I'm not saying that Blackie is a race baiter or a race hustler in his everyday life, or even if he's moving in this direction with his content, but I just knew it was coming, and I can't stand it when it's forced. It is not about white men trying to make black women look bad. It's about white men, black women, white women trying to make money. That's what it is. And if they are in the music industry, in the rap sector, they're going to go with what they think makes them money. When you got the Drakes and you got the Sexyy Reds, if they're going to make them some money, they're going to try to make them some money. It does not matter what their persona is or what they present or how good it looks to them or anybody else. Nobody cares. They don't care how detrimental it is to a community. They care about how much it lines their pockets. And that's all it comes down to. It has nothing to do with degrading a race or a gender.
Let's just say that there's a slew of highly powerful people in the music industry who are heavily invested in her success. Now, those people won't be named because I can't physically point them out. Even if I could, I'm actually not sure if I would, because your boy is trying to see another day.
Bruh, you are not James Bond. Nobody's gonna do anything or come after you simply based off the fact that you have no facts to back up anything that you're saying at this point. Of course, people in the industry have their best interest at heart, which is them making money, which is basically off of her success. But you cannot front what the income is that they're making. If it wasn't making them any money, there would be no more Sexyy Red that we would give a fuck about. It's just, that is what it is. You see all the time, we see video games, movies, actors, actresses, and songwriters and rappers and artists of all kinds get fucked over if the money isn't making sense. The masses can love them for whatever reason, but the money does not equal what the masses are saying. And at that point, nobody is going to push Sexyy Red anywhere. It's not about being black and looking bad.
There's always someone who's controlling what's being televised, and Sexyy Red is the actor who's being used to tell that vision. Television.
Okay, at this point, I was really confused as if he was being serious or this video just became a parody. I truly don't know. It might be an artistic expression of mixing reality with parody. I don't know, but whatever. Obviously, there's somebody controlling what's on television because people run these networks and they're gonna put on what they want to put on. But at the end of the day, can you please give me a more rational reason besides money? No? Right. So I just can't get behind this whole idea that there's this puppeteer's master that's doing all these manipulation to make us think that we want to see this shit. No, if we wouldn't want to see it, we would change the channel or change the radio station and not buy the music. That's the end of it, period. Because if all of that happens, what incentive is there to keep these people in our faces? There's no rationale behind why these people would be in our faces if it wasn't being consumed to the point that it's making them more money. Also, the root word tele means distant and far off, and vision is something you see. It's something that you see that's not actually there and is far off and being broadcasted to us throughout the whole world. That television shit was cute, but come on now.
This person or entity has enough influence to govern what the different channels on the network are allowed to broadcast. The word broadcast derives from widely spreading seeds over a large area when planting. Now the word is used to describe sending out programs through radio or television. How that plays out in the music industry is, imagine the major record labels as these channels, and the different channels all have separate agendas. However, they're all meant to serve the program that's set by the network, i.e. the corporations.
This is kind of frustrating now because it's starting to feel like a joke. All you did was explain how television works. Dog, what are you saying? This all starts to feel like fluff now. It's like, I'm gonna throw all these origin meanings and what this means and how they use to program you and get in your brain so you're so stupid that you don't even understand that you like what you're looking at because they make you think that you like it because we're programming you. Come on, bro. Yes, it's broadcasted across the world so we can all see it. Planting seeds, like all this shit is very cute. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, the message is just so flawed, and I just don't think that it's fair for you to put that out as if it's correct versus how you feel. And then when you really think about it, it's pretty insulting to us as people and human beings to think that we have no idea of what we consume and how we feel about it. I know that when I see a bad movie, I give it a bad rating, I change the channel, whatever. When I hear songs I don't like, there's no amount of radio play that can make me change my mind about how I feel about it. You may sometimes be off put by a certain part of a song, and then when you listen to it more, you grow to like it. You're like, okay, I can get past that part. But there's no way you can play Sexyy Red enough for me to be like, I like her now. It's just kind of weird to think that nobody has any agency over themselves, that they can't decipher what they do and don't like. We know that we have friends that have different taste in music than ourselves. We have friends that have different taste in film than us. So I don't see why thinking that just because something is shown to the public, whether it's a lot or a little, that we're just gonna be programmed to like it.
Have you ever seen those videos of children singing along to a song that may be inappropriate for a younger audience? Speaking of the devil, this video right here is a good example. What you're seeing is a form of hypnosis. The frequency of the music impacts the young mind in a way that's not so overt. From the outside, the only thing we're seeing is music being played and children singing and dancing along to it. Seems pretty innocent, right? On a deeper level, however, there's something else going on.
Stay right here. Come here. Both of y'all, come here. Stay right here. Do y'all know who Sexyy Red is?
We just said that no.
Stop making the fact that Sexyy Red exists for a certain demographic an issue that's was gonna mind fuck our kids. Obviously, this is a fault of the parents. My kids don't know who Sexyy Red is. Why? Because I'm a parent and that's my job. If I don't want them to hear a certain kind of music, I'm not exposing them to it. Even if they heard the radio version of her song, they're not gonna hear me play it. They're not gonna hear the real version. I will say it is pretty cool that those little girls knew to not curse, but that's beside the point. If you don't want your kids hearing it, which they honestly shouldn't be, that's on the fault of the parents. Sexyy Red existing and making this music is of no fault of hers that kids are consuming it. Point that problem to the parents.
She's a walking stereotype that's supposed to be a representation of that large group of people, being black women, of course. The
Says you?
question still stands. What really is the negative impact of an artist like Red, and why is it so important that we wake up to the truth about this? Well, for starters, Red's existence in this industry is for the sole purpose of capitalizing on a false stereotype of an entire race of people.
Says you?
Black Americans have been fighting against pervasive stereotyping for hundreds of years. The world has come very far during this.
Look, bro, what we not finna do is bring in MLK and Malcolm X and do this I Have a Dream shit in the middle of a fucking Sexyy Red video. Bro, I get that you want to make this video long. I get you want to make it in depth. I get you want to get your editing game off because it's fire. But at the end of the day, this is enough, bro. We don't need to go into a black history lesson as to perpetuating stereotypes because of Sexyy fucking Red. She's not the first of her kind and she will not be the last. Honestly, this is becoming less and less popular if we're gonna be completely honest. The older these artists get, the less sexualized they get. We see how Nicki was, we see how Nicki is. Yes, she still sexualizes herself in music, but she's a 40-year-old woman and it's not happening in the same way. Although you can say there's still some artists out there that sexualize themselves at an older age, at the end of the day, it's something that happens with the time. It's something that happens with age. They mature, they get over it. She may change, she may not, but whether or not she does, she's gonna have an audience that's there regardless, and then there's gonna be people that don't rock with her. If you don't like it, ignore it, bro. Stop. You don't have to bring MLK into this.
Red's music serves as a soundtrack for that family structure which plagues so many black families all over the country. The promotion of baby mama culture and a lifestyle that goes against the formation of the nuclear family isn't something black families need more of. The advocacy of these ideologies and this lifestyle comes with a big monetary incentive. This is why artists like Red are usually the archetype of rappers that receive the most amount of popularity. Overall, Sexyy Red is here to stay. She's only getting bigger by the second, and it doesn't look like that's gonna stop anytime soon. Do I think she's a net negative to the genre of hip-hop? I will say yes, mostly based on how she shows up as a person. I can tolerate the music because music is subjective after all. The biggest issue I have with Red is the constant lack of character she's exuded.
Dog, that's a perfectly fine stance to have, but do not create this entire scenario that the music industry is trying to make black people and black women look like the scum of the earth. You don't like Sexyy Red, but there are a group of black people, which I would hope you do care about, that resonate with her. You can't just dictate how they feel about the artist that they like, just like you don't want anybody taking the music you like away from you. Is it disgusting to some? Yes. To others, it's a way of life. And that's kind of a different conversation than what is being had right here.
It doesn't seem like she takes her position all that seriously, and I think that's where the danger lies. Setting a positive example to the millions of children, more specifically young girls who follow you to your best ability as a public figure is the bare minimum if you ask me.
That's where you have it all wrong. Sexyy Red did not sign up to be a positive figure for any children anywhere. Her music is clearly not catered for children. That's like saying the simple fact that some stars exist, they should set a good example for children all over the world. That's not in their job description, bro. Yes, there are moments where kids fall into hearing her music, but she is not putting it out for kids to consume. My content isn't for kids to consume. If a kid stumbles across my content, then that's on the parent. We can't live our lives making sure that every adult is making sure they're a good role model for children, because every adult isn't meant to be a good role model for children. Because at this point, you're pretty much just asking her to be somebody she isn't and to put on a front for the sake of kids possibly hearing her music. And that's not how she got on. That's not what she enjoys doing. And then that's not what people enjoy hearing from her.
With that being said, she's clearly here to run up her bag. So make sure you raise your children and don't leave it up to celebrities because they don't care.
If that's the conclusion that you came to after this 30-minute video, the 30-minute video never needed to exist. Obviously, celebrities don't care about raising other people's kids, especially when you have your own to raise. So therefore, you are going to make sure they listen to what they should be listening to and could be listening to. And as parents, we're going to keep them from listening to those things they need not to listen to. That is not a fault of Sexyy Red. This video could have applied to a bunch of other rappers, but I think that you personally feel a way about Sexyy Red. So yes, she got the lucky golden ticket for your video this time. With that, I do feel like that whole premise to say that and admit it in the video defeats the whole purpose of the video, because if you're going to acknowledge that everything is about money, that parents should parent well, and people have the right to make their own music no matter how much people don't like it, then I think that that defeats the whole purpose of your message to say that this is all being done intentionally. I don't think you can have it both ways, which is why I felt a way about this video and had to kind of come in and just say how I felt about it, because it was all over the place. This direction is pretty new for Blackie, so his usual content isn't anything like this. So I was kind of confused, and I just needed a way to express my views on it and critique it. You know, this is no shade to Blackie at all. He makes great content. I love his content. I watch pretty much every video he puts out. Great editing, great music, great commentary, all that jazz. This ain't no shade to him. It's just a critique video from a lover of this person's content. If you made it to this point in the video, leave a like, comment, sub, if not one, and all three. If you made it all the way to the end, there's no reason I don't deserve one of those three things, if not all of them. And until next time, I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Peace.